Arctic Eggs takes place in Antarctica. In the year 2091, we spawn into this kind of weird room. We see a bunch of chickens around us, and there really isn't a whole lot else going on. As we walk through the chicken cages, we find a soldier who asks us a pretty simple question: can you fry eggs on top of Mount Everest? He seems to think that the answer is no, because as they cook, they will freeze as you flip them over in the pan. It's also kind of noticeable that this guy's face doesn't seem quite right. I don't know what happened in 2091, but something is definitely off. Mr. Exposition here informs us that apparently we recently tried to escape, and because of that, the boss took away all of our abilities except to walk around and cook for people. We don't have an answer for what our responsibilities were before or why we tried to escape from this place, but we don't really have time to worry about that as we are now the camp's main chef. That's what the majority of this game is about. We control this pan that heats things up based on our motion, and so we need to cook eggs and eventually other items at request. After breaking a few eggs, we finally get a little bit of a hang of how the cooking mechanic actually works. Once you have one side of the egg cooked, you need to flip it and cook the other side, and then you're done. The soldier advises us that if we actually want to get out of this place, we're going to need to get permission from the Saint of Six Stomachs. And the best way for us to achieve that is probably to feed as many people as possible and really impress this guy. So I guess let's head out into the world and do just that. Heading outside, we get the message that 10 people in this area are hungry, which seems like it'll give us pretty good progress towards impressing the Saint of Six Stomachs. We also see, just from looking around, that it seems like everybody kind of has something going on, and we are living in kind of a crazy, futuristic, cyberpunk-style city, just on Antarctica. I had no idea what other kinds of foods I was going to be asked to cook once we got outside, but the first one that we got, I definitely wasn't expecting. This lady wants us to cook her cigarette on top of her egg. The cigarette is interesting. It kind of functions as a timer, forcing you to be a little bit quicker with your egg than going super slow and being very careful with your flip. The normal fail state for this game is if you accidentally flip your food out of your pan, obviously you have to start over, you can't finish a partial dish. I assume that the same thing would happen if the cigarette burns out. I never actually had that happen in this playthrough though. With that lesson out of the way, we complete our first customer. Fortunately for us, there are a ton of people standing around in this general open common area, but unfortunately not all of them want food. Some of them just want to talk, and sometimes they're just kind of having conversations with each other. We're not even really involved. I don't know what I was expecting coming into this game, but I definitely wasn't expecting the first open area to be these huge cinder brick looking buildings with all of these super tight railways attached to the side. It's kind of a nightmare scenario for me personally. Sometimes though, in addition to having a conversation that doesn't really relate to you at all, you'll walk up and they'll just go ahead and throw a couple of items in your pan. And if there are two people together, they'll team up and double your workload at the same time. Like in this case, we're cooking an egg and a tin of sardines at the same time. Sardines, one of the first kind of annoying items to be added, where it spawns 3 individual fish once it cooks on one side, that you then have to pop out and cook twice again. Behind that terrible tag team, we also find another soldier guarding a door into a different area, who informs us that once we finish feeding all the people in this area, he'll move out of the way and we can move on. There are actually 3 different areas that spin off of this main area, and you can do them in any order. Crossing over to the other side of the metal bridges and talking to some more civilians, it seems like chicken, as an animal to eat, has actually become kind of a rare item, and you actually have to get it smuggled in. And in the case of these people, it turns out that it had salmonella in it. So actually kind of lucky that we're here to cook them something else instead. It's interesting though, they didn't even have us put any chicken in the pan or anything. They actually had 2 strips of bacon that you would think would also kind of be like a delicacy in this world. Oh, actually that's convenient. There's a soldier right here that gives us the rundown on what actually went down with the chicken. Apparently the Saint of Six Stomachs has actually outlawed chicken for eating, so they're just prioritizing the production of eggs, it seems like. Even the professional butchers need someone to make their food for them. Even this guy who seems to be cooking stuff on a grill, I'm not really sure why he needed us, or why our job exists, I guess. Seems like this guy could do it. He gives us our first and only look at sausage in the game though. It's not that difficult to cook, just kind of annoying with how much space it takes up in the pan. Speaking of filling up the pan, we stumble upon some triplets, I guess, that ask us to cook them 4 eggs up real quick, which isn't a super big deal, but we better get used to doing this order. And we very quickly learn what kind of game this is gonna be when we stumble upon somebody that wants us to cook them 10 cigarettes along with 1 egg. Really just filling up the pan with whatever now, huh? It makes sense though, because cigarettes are the most agreeable way of life. Eventually, we arrive up at the top of a very tall tower and find a guard standing outside of the Saint of Six Stomachs room. He informs us that he is kind of the guardian and he can't possibly let us in to take an audience with him unless we've fed maybe 27 people. Nice round number. With the 10 people in the main area and 8 in each of the 3 side areas, there are definitely plenty of opportunities to feed people. You don't even need to do all of them if you want to skip some of the more annoying ones. Unfortunately, that's not for me though. We also learn from one of the nearby security guards that apparently this year there are a lot less chickens than normal, so maybe we want to get out of here quick. After cooking up the final meal of this area for another nearby soldier who wanted 2 tins of sardines, what a greedy little boy, we get the message that 0 people in this area are still hungry. But the achievement for feeding everybody in this area didn't pop, which I thought was a little weird. I decided to save and quit out of the game just to make sure nothing was wrong, and that's when we earn the achievement Feast in the Clouds. This game is a little bit weird, and we actually don't unlock achievements until we exit the game. I don't know if this is a bug or a glitch or whatever, but I really hate when games have weird quirks like this, but we'll deal with it. With everyone fed in the main area, we can go ahead and head on over to the first of the 3 side areas, which happens to be this little bar with the pier area below it. It's fitting that this area is on the pier, as a lot of the people here are going to be asking for specifically fishy dishes. This first one introducing a new mechanic via the bouncy pufferfish. And doing a quick Google here just to verify that pufferfish live in Antarctica, and no, they absolutely don't. 2091, you crazy. The pufferfish is pretty annoying due to its bouncing around effect, but normally if you can get it to hit one of the other items in the pan, it will stop at least until it hits its next cooking stage, and then the bouncing will begin again. Luckily, no one would ever ask for 2 pufferfish at once, right? You know, that would be just crazy. This game also has a couple of achievements not tied to cooking, but instead tied to talking to various people in the environment, like this guy who informs us about the art of sock foot alignment to earn savory sock seasoning. In addition to the pufferfish, we also have a more standard fish that will flop occasionally, but is nowhere near as annoying as the pufferfish. With fish on the mind, we decide to head on down to the pier where we meet the fishmonger himself, who actually asks us to teach him how to cook. It's a pretty simple order, 1 egg, 1 bacon, but this area actually has one little twist. Instead of controlling our own pan, we are controlling the pan that this guy is holding, meaning that everything is completely flipped. This was easily the hardest challenge in the game for me. Maybe if I would have tackled this a little bit later on, it would have been a little bit easier. But seeing as I was still very early on, this ended up being extremely annoying and pretty difficult to wrap my head around. Honestly, I failed at this challenge so many times, I'm pretty sure this is going to be what I use for the talkie portion at the end of the video, because I just have so much dead footage of me absolutely flipping this stuff completely to the moon. I spent so long on this one mission in particular that I actually went into the settings and put the game on easy mode, which actually just adds a slightly higher rim to the pan. It didn't make things that easy though, as I was still struggling, but eventually I do finally manage to wrap my head around it and complete the task at hand. The pier is really just the area for cooking just annoying stuff, like this stingray that takes up essentially the entire pan. This guy isn't even like that difficult to deal with, it's just like figuring out how to flip it when it's your entire pan is a little bit annoying. At the end of the pier, we get a pretty sad story, an old man whose son simply won't let him die. With all of the cybernetic technology that exists here now, this old man has his body parts replaced one at a time to slowly keep him alive, as it seems like his son has as well. He asks us to cook him a pretty simple meal consisting of a pufferfish and a regular fish, though they are a little bit floppy, and once he finishes his meal, he turns around from the edge of the pier where he's been sitting and plunges down into the water below. So, we earn the achievement Empty Aquarium for feeding everyone at the pier, and we're just gonna walk away. With the pier knocked out of the way, it's time to head to the next area where there are 8 more people hungry. This time, we're heading up to the prison. The main mechanic introduced in this area is the addition of the cooking cockroach. While you have the cockroach in the pan, your goal isn't actually to cook it, it's to keep it on its back for as long as possible, because if it gets right side up, it will run out of your pan and you will have to restart. It's definitely an interesting new mechanic, a little bit tricky to get the hang of. You really need to be flipping your pan a lot to try to get the guy on his back over and over again. The existence of the prison does raise some interesting questions though. We tried to escape, which was a huge fiasco, and now we are kind of the bottom rung of the ladder with cooking for everyone. So I guess everybody that's in here did something way worse than us. And the worst of the offenders in the prison is, of course, this guy named Kevin, who shows us how he sits on the toilet, which is simply insane. He's kind of built like a bird, I guess. At least we earn the achievement "This is how I sit on the toilet" for talking to him. The prison also gives us a very interesting look into all of the different body modifications that are going on in this society. I mean, this guy doesn't even have a head, but he seems to be fine otherwise. You must cook the meat cube. The other big mechanic introduced in the prison is actually from the prison guards, who introduce us to the idea of bullets being thrown into our pan while we cook. Bullets are another object that our focus isn't actually on cooking, but instead we're trying to get out of our pan, as when they finish cooking, they will explode and launch our items up in the air. We also hear a familiar discussion going on between 2 of the people in the prison, asking, "Can you fry an egg on top of Mount Everest?" Seems like that question might have a little bit more weight to it than we initially thought. With that interesting bit of dialogue out of the way, we go ahead and finish cooking for all of the other prisoners that are interested in food until we just have 1 person remaining in the area. Wandering into the final area of the prison, I honestly am not super sure of what's going on here. We have some guys that don't really seem like prisoners, they're kind of just hanging out back here. But they also have some cybernetic dolphin friends, and they actually aren't hungry, they want us to cook for the dolphins, but that's kind of simple, honestly. It's just an egg and a bunch of bullets. Once we complete that order, we earn the achievement Prison Poultry for feeding everyone in the prison. We do learn that apparently this guy that we were just cooking for is actually old friends with the Saint of 6 Stomachs. Apparently they actually worked together to build this prison back in the day. Maybe this guy's word will have a little bit more weight when it comes time for the end of the game. With the prison knocked out of the way, it's time for us to head on over to the final miniature area of the game, the club. The interesting things with this area actually start before we even get in the club, as we find the opposite of that guy that was missing his head in the prison. This guy has managed to stay alive when he appears to be just a brain. There have really been some amazing medical technologies invented in the time until 2091. The first new mechanic of this area is the cooked beer. Beer comes in a bottle, and when it's knocked over, it will spill all over the tray, and if any of it leaks out, you have to start from the beginning. Inside the club, I've got to say things are kinda bumpin' though. The music is blaring and everybody is dancing around, including this guy with his gun that he keeps accidentally pointing at us. Not everyone at the club is super into the cooked beer idea though. It is a little bit strange, so instead some people want us to just take a shot glass with 3 ice cubes and go ahead and melt those ice into water. Nothing strange. Talking to another club patron with a very weird camera perspective, we earn the achievement Email Etiquette for learning about the etiquette of sending an email. We get to talking to the bartender, who actually informs us he took this job because he was hoping to kind of do what we're doing. He wanted to impress the Saint of Six Stomachs with his cooking, but he doesn't really get a chance to practice anymore since people only want drinks. Kind of a sad story for the boy. We also earn the achievement The Government for talking to this person in particular and letting them rant about their feelings on the government. At this point, we only have 1 person remaining to feed in the club area, but we can't seem to find them, so naturally we decide to drop down this hole in the bathroom floor, and we actually end up inside of this weird aquarium area. Luckily, we came to the aquarium on a kind of off day. Turns out there's actually only 1 person here, and they seem to be asking this dolphin if you can fry eggs on Mount Everest. Okay. This time we are once again cooking for sea creatures, but this one is a little bit more involved than the dolphins previously. They're looking for the hibachi experience, and they want us to flip our egg into their mouth, which is a little bit harder than I anticipated. I am not even going to tell you how many attempts this took me. Luckily, it's just cooking 1 egg, so it's pretty easy, but this wasn't really a skill that I had built up previously in the game. But with that deep sea creature fed, we actually earn the achievement Nightclub Nourishment for feeding everybody at the club, and actually everyone in total is fed now. So now that we've surpassed the 27 goal for feeding everyone, we can walk into the doors of the Saint of Six Stomachs chamber, where we get a very ominous "One Still Hungry" up on the screen. I don't know what I was expecting with the Saint of Six Stomachs, but it wasn't to walk up with no dialogue and immediately begin cooking for this stomach in a jar. Our first challenge is pretty easy, it's just 2 eggs in a pan, so we've definitely done this one a couple of times by now. Once we finish up cooking the first 2 eggs for the first stomach, we move up to the second stomach, which wants 3 eggs, and you can probably guess where this one is going. Luckily, failure in this task doesn't actually force you to go back to the first stomach and go all the way up in one go, which is what I was really worried about. The only way for you to do that is to accidentally hit the escape key like I did right there. Ugh. Getting up to 4 eggs is obviously terrain that we've been in before, nothing super crazy, but 5 eggs is in fact new ground. With 5 eggs, you can just about keep them all on the pan at the same time, but for the most part, you're going to end up flipping one on top of the other, which will make cooking them all evenly a little bit more of a problem. And then 6 eggs is obviously a whole nother ball game. It's really not super possible to stop them from overlapping each other. The best thing that you can do is just kind of slowly jiggle them to get one off of top of the other one. 6 eggs was definitely a challenge, and I was a little bit concerned coming into the final Saint Stomach challenge, but the final challenge seems to just be a little bit peckish as it only wants 1 egg, which kind of makes sense because the first stomach wanted 2 eggs instead of 1. Obviously, cooking 1 egg is no problem at all for us now, so we earn the achievement The Silenced Saint for feeding the Saint of Six Stomachs. And now we've actually earned the right to talk to the Saint, who asks us if we think we can fry an egg on top of Mount Everest. Of course. We seem to have earned the Saint's respect as he reaches one hand out to grab us, and then he asks us to let him know when we find out if we can actually cook an egg on top of Mount Everest. So it seems like we're getting out of here as the game cuts to the Arctic eggs screen, and then we get to take off in a plane out of Antarctica. The credits roll, and we can now celebrate finishing up the main story of the game. The game isn't actually finished though at this point, as we get a pop-up that we are now on Mount Everest, and looking directly in front of us, it seems like that ship we were on has crashed on down. Seems like we're actually going to get the opportunity to cook that egg that we've been wondering about. First things first though, I decided to try to climb up our busted ship and see what would happen if I walked off the side of the mountain, and it just teleported me further up the trail where it wanted us to go in the first place. So we continue the short ascent up to the very top of Mount Everest, where I assume I was going to attempt to cook an egg, but instead we find a chicken who is just hanging out up here, and we get to touch it a little bit, which is kind of strange, and then the game kind of just fades out, which is a very weird ending. Okay, so now it's time to go back into the game and clean up our first achievement, which involves walking up to the Saint of Six Stomachs once again, but now we need to turn our difficulty up to hard mode where we're playing on a completely flat pan. I've got to say, I'm really glad that this is the only level that we need to do on hard mode, because if I had to do the backwards controls challenge on hard mode, I think I would lose my mind. It's actually not so bad on the Saint level. You really just need to get down doing small little flips to try to get your eggs completely flipped over and cooked on both sides quickly. Weirdly enough, the challenge that ended up tripping me up the most was the stage with 5 eggs that probably took me more time than all of the other stages put together. I don't know, I just couldn't get the 5 eggs down. 6 actually wasn't that big of an issue after this. I mean, maybe I got trained from all of my time doing 5, but this was definitely the hardest part of the hard mode challenge for me. Eventually though, we do manage to get all the way to the end of the 6 egg challenge on hard mode to earn the achievement Colder Than Everest. Obviously after that we have 1 egg, but you know, that's not a super big deal after you've dealt with the 5 and 6 egg challenges. So now we have 6 achievements remaining, and they are all related to the game's Sandbox mode, where we need to enter into it and set up different little challenges for us to complete. This is definitely a challenge mode, but none of these are super difficult, so we're kind of just going to go ahead and bang through them. The first one that we deal with is cooking a beer and a pufferfish, and for completing this one, we earn the achievement Beer and Puff. The next achievement is Bullet Hell for cooking 1 egg and at least 10 bullets. This ends in an absolute ton of bullets getting rained down on you, so it's kind of just a hard mode version of the final prison guards mission. After that is the achievement In and Out for cooking 1 egg, 1 cockroach, and 1 bullet. Another kind of throwback to the prison area, but this one really isn't super difficult at all. Tangled Meat is the next achievement for cooking a total of 12 sausages, which isn't difficult and is honestly just kind of a funny challenge to throw in here. The most difficult Sandbox achievement is definitely Caged Roach for cooking 1 egg, 4 roaches, and 4 shot glasses. It's a pretty big challenge to flip the eggs and keep the roaches on their back, but you don't even need to put ice in the shot glasses, so it's not too bad. And the final achievement that we go for is Beer Hell for cooking 1 egg and 6 beers. I actually needed to do this one twice because for some reason I thought it was 4 beers and I did that instead. But we pretty quickly managed to cook this egg without actually spilling any of the beers, and we earn our final achievement, and we can officially say that we have done everything in Arctic Eggs. But how did we do? I managed to complete Arctic Eggs in 3.6 hours, which honestly seems like a pretty good time. Some of the challenges were pretty straightforward, but some of them were definitely a little bit more challenging, as you can see from the backwards control challenge that I think I'm going to throw on the background footage here. This game had really good variety in the challenges to do, and I also really like that if you weren't going for all of the achievements, they allow you to skip some of the more annoying challenges since you only need to feed a total of 27 out of the, I believe, 36 total options available. That's bad math, it's 34, I just redid it in my head. Overall, I would say that this was a super fun game. I mean, some of the sci-fi stuff, I really don't get what was going on with it. I'm sure that there is like more lore that maybe the people that were making the game know about, and maybe they're going to do more with this lore in the future because it was a pretty interesting world. I think I described it as cyberpunk earlier in the video, which it's not really cyberpunk, but I guess the body modification stuff kind of makes me think of that, and also like the colonizing Antarctica sort of thing about it. But yeah, as always, if you have any thoughts about this game, please feel free to leave those in the comments down below. And also, one programming note, if you've listened all the way through to the end of this video, I've been kind of kicking around the idea for a little bit now of maybe dropping the upload schedule back to every other week instead of every week. Let me know what you think about that as well. I think probably by the time that this video comes out, I'll have made a little community post about it to see what people that are checking there have to say about it. But if you haven't seen that, or I haven't done it yet or something, you can also leave that feedback here. My main reason for it is I think that it's getting a little bit difficult for me to keep up the schedule of one a week. And it's kind of resulting in me just doing these kind of short, like 1 to 5 hour games every week, which I do enjoy playing, but I also have a lot of bigger games that I want to tackle as well. I actually have like 5 or 6 full games recorded, some of these being like pretty big games, like 60 to 100 hours. That I've already fully played through. I've got all the achievements, it's all recorded and everything. I just can't find the time to edit and voice over it and also keep out the rate of videos that I'm making currently. Looking back at my video uploads, it's been like 4 months since I've uploaded something where the game took me longer than like 20 hours to play through. And while I love my short games, and I'm still gonna throw those in from time to time, I would really like to have more time to focus on bigger games that are a little bit longer as well. I actually have one game that came out earlier in 2025 that I played all the way through, had it all 100% done, and it's taken me so long to not start the editing on it that it actually had DLC come out. So now I'm kind of like, I don't know if I should go ahead and play through the DLC and throw that onto the end of the video I was going to make, or like make the DLC its own separate video. I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation to be in for me. And some of the videos that I have already like recorded and have just kind of been sitting with me not having the time to complete them are pretty big games that I think people would be super excited to see me check out. So that also kind of has me wanting to focus on getting those out a little bit quicker. That would drop me back to completing only 26 games a year though if I'm doing them every other week, which is kind of disappointing because I do really like running through these games a little bit quicker. So I don't know, maybe I will drop back to an every other week upload schedule to clear the backlog out a little bit quicker and then maybe switch back. I don't know, feel free to let me know what you think down below or in that community post when I end up making it. I absolutely love playing games and I love making these videos. I'm just trying to think about what's the best way going forward to get the best videos out, because these videos have also become a little bit formulaic where I'm rushing every single week to get them finished and out the door, and I would really like to improve a little bit more with my editing skill and starting to improve the quality of the videos as well. So let me know what you think about all of that, or if you don't care, you know, you can say that as well, I guess. But as always, thank you for watching, and if you stayed all the way to the end listening to me ramble through what I was saying before, thank you for that as well. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. See you!